question. What is the best way to set up a definite date by text? I go straight to saying, let's get a drink when I get their number and it's not working. Need advice.
Well, like, what does that mean? Are you strictly doing online dating? Because if you're doing online dating and you get the number, if you're doing online dating, what you should be doing is you send 2 or 3 texts, maybe 4 or 5 texts back and forth, just basic chit chat so she can kind of see that you're not a nut. And then what I typically do, I just did a video newsletter a couple weeks ago about this. What I would typically say is if the conversation or the texting is going well after a few replies back and forth, say, hey, well, let's jump on a phone call and then just send her your number. Say, give me a call or send me your number and I'll give you a call and chat and maybe we can meet up for a drink. That's what I would say. And most of the time, women won't call you. They'll send you their number and then you can call them and then spend maybe 10, 15 minutes talking on the phone and see how the phone call goes. I would not recommend just setting a date with a girl in an app when you haven't even heard her voice and haven't even carried on a conversation, because you'll find that you're going to go out on a bunch of dates and you're going to be like, oh my God, this girl's fucking boring. Oh my God, I can't stand her voice, or whatever it happens to be. So the idea is you're trying to work smarter, not harder. You're not trying to go out on 1,000 dates. You're trying to go out on a few really good dates so you can pick one good girl. Because if you're just trying to meet one girl after another, that's like the shotgun approach. You want to think of yourself as more like a sniper. You want to be very specific and selective.
Not online. I get their number in person, then go straight to saying, let's get a drink. So I need to do a back and forth first.
Well, it depends on how much rapport you have with them. If you stopped in the grocery store or on the street and you're like, hey, I'm in a rush, but I'd love to chat with you some more. Let me get your number. And you get her number and you talk to her for a few seconds, then I would call her up and say, hey, this is Bob. Want to see what you're up to? Give me a call back. Or she answers, hey, this is Bob. How you doing? If she's like, who? And you just got her number that afternoon, you're like, obviously you didn't make much of an impression on her. Then you can go, oh, I'm sorry, I must have the wrong number. Click. If she's like, oh, hey, Bob, I'm really glad you called. Then you can talk to her for 10 or 15 minutes. Because what you're trying to do is, do you like talking to her? Do you enjoy conversing with her? Because if you can't have a good conversation on the phone, then why the hell would you want to go spend money on in person? If it doesn't go well on the phone, it's not going to go well in person. And so when you're getting rejected like that, that tells me you have zero rapport and those girls have low to no interest. Maybe they were just giving you their phone number to get rid of you. But in that case, but another scenario is, say you like this weekend. What is it? I think the next game is Team USA. The men's hockey is tonight, I think, isn't it? Or is it tomorrow? But I know there's another game. So just assume you're a big sports fan, like we just came out of the Super Bowl. But say you're like, hey, I'm having a bunch of people over for college football this week, and you should come. There'll be a lot of girls there. My girlfriend, my wife has got a bunch of cute single girls from the office coming over, and they're bringing some drinks, and they're bringing some of their girlfriends. We're gonna have a bunch of people there, and I'll introduce you to them. I was like, cool. And if you go over and you hang out and you're talking for 4 or 5 or 6, 7 hours, having drinks and having a good time together, then you've got a lot of good rapport. And you get her number and say, hey, we should get together for a drink, or hey, we should get together for dinner sometime. And you get her number. She's like, oh, that'd be great. He's like, yeah, I'll give you a call this week, and we'll set something up. And if you spend 4 or 5 hours hanging out and talking with your group of people, then in that case, you're going to get her address and you're going to go pick her up because you have rapport. So it really depends on how much rapport you have and how you met her. If you just met her on the street and only talked for a few minutes, I would spend at least 10 to 15 minutes on the phone to see what they're like and to see if you like talking to them. And if that goes well, you should say, hey, we should get together for a drink sometime. When are you free? And invite her for a date.
Super Batman asks, Corey, what's your view on being very direct and assertive about romantic sexual intent early on, like my friend advises?
Well, typically you want to be a little smooth, a little more diplomatic, instead of just saying, hey, let's fuck. I mean, there are cases where you can do that. You may be out and a girl comes up and starts rubbing her ass on you and eye fucking you. And so you just grab her and you start making out. In that case, you say, hey, let's get out here and go back to my place. And she might say, yeah, let's do that. Or she might say, well, let's hang out and have another drink. But I mean, there are situations where you can meet somebody, hook up, and then you go right home. So it really depends on the situation. I wouldn't recommend you go around leading with your dick and throwing your dick at a girl. Remember, it's a scientific fact. Women are more attracted to men whose feelings are unclear. And if you're selective, if you're used to getting what you want, and you have choices and you have options, and you got girls texting you, wanting to hook up, wanting to come over for sex, maybe you got some friends with benefits, you got a little rotation going, and you meet a new girl, your balls are already drained dry. You don't really need another chick in your rotation unless she's better than what you got. And so in that case, you're going to want to vet her for a little bit. You're going to talk to her. You're going to see how she is. You're going to see how you feel about her. See if you like talking to her. See if she's interesting. And then you're going to, at the end of the day, what is the purpose of seduction? It's to get closer and closer to a woman until you ultimately end up inside of her. And so you're always, if you know the book backwards and forwards, you're going to respond to her based upon how she's showing up. So it really depends on a case by case basis. Sometimes you might be in the islands at a resort and it's a vacation and everybody's there having a good time. And then, you hang out at the bar for a few hours, you start making out, and then you just walk back to your hotel room. Maybe you got a little cabana or something like that. So it really depends on the situation. If you're meeting somebody through work, you're like at a trade show or something like that, you're probably going to get the number and call her sometime, you know, that next week and make a date. So it really depends on the situation and how you guys met and the logistics of that.
Taking a girl out on a date, I had a place in mind, but she said it's quite a drive and want to do something closer. Should I stay firm on my restaurant choice or find something closer to her place?
Well, how far apart are they? Did he say? Ideally, you're trying to find something that is within a reasonable amount of time. If it goes well, you can dip back to your place to hook up. But if you're doing online dating and you met a girl that's like an hour away, then probably for your first date you should meet somewhere in the middle. So that just sounds like she's not super into it and she's not really willing to travel very far. What do you want? Somebody who's easygoing, easy to get along with, and who's nice to you. But that's what I hear. A lot of people that go to the run clubs is that they tend to be a lot of liberal people there. I don't know if that's the case, down in Florida, but things like that. Run clubs are kind of like the new speed dating these days. I know there's some that meet in the neighborhood where I live, and because they usually get out, they're very loud and they kind of pump each other up before they do their run, or when they get back, they hang out, and sometimes they go to bars and stuff like that and have a few drinks. So it's like, what do you love doing for fun? And then go hang out with other like-minded people that like doing those fun things. Because when you meet people through things you enjoy doing socially, you're going to have a lot more in common, and your conversations are going to go flow a lot better than hoping to run into some random girl on the street and hope that she shares the similar goals and similar values. Because especially the younger guys, they grew up with the internet, they grew up with cell phones and iPads. I was eating lunch yesterday and there was a couple that's got, like their 2-year old, and they're just sticking a big iPad in front of them just to basically try to shut them up and distract them so they could eat lunch and not be bothered. And, my generation, we were always outside playing with our neighborhood kids. And so we were very social. And plus I played sports. And so I made a lot of friends through sports. And then, those kids I also went to school with. So Monday through Friday, I'm seeing them at school. And after school, I'm seeing them at practice. And the weekends, I'm seeing them at the games. And that just kind of carried through into adulthood. It's tough to do that if you move around every year, especially if you got parents in the military or whatever, and you're just moving around from base to base. It's hard to establish that. But if you live in the same city and you grow up there, you should be making lots of friends and people through your social activities. So if you tend to be reclusive, and sometimes I do phone sessions with guys that are like that. They grew up with a digital device shoved in their face, and their parents never really got them involved in anything. And they were kind of socially awkward or maybe even a little autistic, and they just don't really know anybody because they never
Yeah.
did those things. Whereas when I was growing up, it's like we didn't have the internet. So we had to get out of the house, and we'd go build a ramp in our front yard, and the ramps kept getting bigger and bigger, and until we fucked up like not fucked up like Evil Knievel, and we played football just about every day in the street. We would one of the things that we would do at night was we would take tennis balls and we would spray them with like lighter fluid, and we would play catch with a flaming tennis
Oh
ball,
my God.
which
That's
is kind of crazy.
wild.
As long as you
That's
don't hold
wild.
it too long, you pick it up
It's like
and you,
hot potato.
yeah, exactly,
Literally.
literally. And then sometimes we'd use a tennis racket, but eventually the ball would, the fibers would start to melt and it would kind of burn all the fuzz off of it, and then you'd just be left with like a rubber ball.
I think it just leaves more imagination if you try to like refrain from using too much
The
electronics.
neighbors weren't happy when the flaming tennis ball landed in their front yard, especially if it was a
Yike.
dead spot, and then you get a little bonfire in their lawn. So you got to be careful. Don't go burning your neighborhood down with a flaming tennis ball. Well, that's the kind of shit we used to do because we had video games, but video games were fun for a while, but most of the time we were outside doing things, and especially your parents get annoyed. They didn't shove an iPad in their face. They're like, go play
Yeah.
outside,
It
go hang out with
backfires.
your friends across the street, or go play with Billy. Billy's I've had him on the podcast a few times over the years, with my friends I grew up with, and we were always outside. We're always doing something.
It backfires. It's like you said, like when they get older, they start getting very socially awkward and relying too much on technology.
Yeah, you gotta force yourself to socialize with other human beings. When I was in real estate, one of the things that was great about that, and even construction for that matter, there were trade shows to go to, there were trainings we went on. We would go to happy hours afterwards, like, in real estate, because we knew so many people in the business. You have Christmas parties to go to. You have home builders going, hey, we've got a new home community where we got 4 models, we got a band, we got music, we got drinks, we got food. It's 4 hours. Come over and hang out. Then you go and you hang out. You meet a bunch of people you knew in the industry, and then we'd always end up going out somewhere together after that event would end. And so it was, I met a lot of people because you meet account executives. Usually the mortgage account executives, a lot of them are hot girls. Because if a hot girl comes in, it's like, hey, I want you to, lend out our mortgage products. And she's hot. You're thinking, wow, that's what can we do to get her to come back in the office? It's like, hey, I got a loan. You want to come by and take a look at it? See if you can, what you can do. And it's the same thing with the pharmaceutical industry. That's why usually the guys are handsome and the girls are really hot because they just get more business. So you got to force yourself to be social.
Yeah, that was like one big thing that my parents helped me like growing up, and back to what we were talking about, I guess to piggyback towards like the technology and stuff, like they made it a really big deal that I had to give myself time to prevent myself from like being too much all over technology and actually play with kids.
Cool.
Actually play with the other kids, and yeah. One little bad behavior, they take away my DS for a week. One bad
Damn.
behavior, they take away my GameCube for a week. Yeah. The kids don't nowadays don't know the struggle and the pain that gives you.
When we got bad grades, we just get grounded. Weren't allowed to go do anything other than go to school or go to baseball or football practice or whatever. I was good in elementary school and middle school, but when I got to high school, I fucked around a lot. And so there were times where I was like not allowed, like junior year, I was most of the year I was grounded. I could go to work and I could go to school. Other than that, I couldn't do shit. So I missed out on a lot of fun. But senior year, especially when I turned 18, I made up for it. But by then it was all over.